So, today we are going to be talking about living and non-living things and how they compare and contrast, what the difference really is, because we've talked about them a lot. So what do we have? Well, living things are a particular set of things, for lack of a better word, that have similar characteristics. Organisms, another word for living things, share 6 important characteristics. All living things have cellular organization, meaning they have cells and they're orderly. You can see them. They contain similar chemicals. They use energy. They respond to their surroundings, grow, develop, and reproduce. Organisms are made up entirely of cells. A cell is the basic structure and function of an organism. We should remember this from when we talked about cells. There are single-celled organisms, like bacteria, which are unicellular, meaning they only have one cell, or organisms composed of many cells, multicellular. The chemicals include includes water, carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. Nucleic acids are the genetic material within the cells. We did presentations on those, so I hope we remember those, at least a little. The combination of ratios that break down and build up of these materials within a cell and that provide it with energy is called metabolism. A change in an organism's surroundings that causes the organism to react is called a stimulus. Stimulus, like, when things get warmer, you put on more clothes. Oh yeah, you don't do that. You put on less clothes. When things get warmer, you dress for the weather. When you get colder, you bundle up, right? Something in the environment that causes you to change what you're doing. The change, the behavior, is called a response. So the stimulus makes you do something called a response. Development is the process of change that occurs in an organism's life to produce a more complex organism, like growing. Asexual reproduction, meaning having a child without having sex, involves one parent, and the offspring that is produced is identical to the parent. This is a lot like cloning, a single parent that suddenly turns into another organism. Sexual reproduction, which is what people and animals and most things do, that you are aware of, involves two parents that combines their genetic material, their DNA, to produce a new organism that is different from both of those parents. On to the next concept we are going to need. We are going to need to know where living things come from, right? Living things come from other living things through reproduction, right? Living things do not just suddenly come into existence, although for a very long time people thought that is what happened. There was a theory called spontaneous generation, but that was proven incorrect by a controlled experiments of Francesco Redi and Louis Pasteur, of which there were several identical tests, which only one factor was a variable. So, idea of this was, people thought for a very long time that flies just suddenly appeared on trash, like they generated out of the trash, and eels suddenly came to exist out of mud. How was this disproved? Well, Francisco Redi took 2 jars, right? One uncovered and one covered. You can see it on the right there. In both, he put a piece of meat. In the covered jar, flies couldn't get to the meat, so flies didn't develop on the meat. Maggots develop on the meat and then turn into flies. The uncovered jar, well, you got maggots. The maggots ate the meat and turned into flies. So with this, Francisco Redi proved that maggots don't just magically appear out of meat as it goes bad. It is something they need, flies to lay the eggs to make more flies. Louis Pasteur did a very similar thing with broth and crazy-necked, what were they? Beakers, but worry about this one. The last concept we're really going to need is, well, what do we need to survive? Well, regardless of how big or how small you are, living things need the same stuff. They need food, water, living space, and stable internal conditions. All right? Organisms that make their own food are called autotrophs. things like trees, plants, anything that doesn't have to eat to live. Organisms that cannot make their own food, or things that need to eat to live, are called heterotrophs. Heterotrophs eat autotrophs or other heterotrophs. The maintenance of stable internal conditions is called homeostasis. Alright, what does that mean? Homeostasis means that things are similar enough inside the cell no matter what happens. Right? Your body temperature stays, hopefully, about 98.6 if it's 120 degrees outside, or if it's 60 degrees outside, right? Or 20 degrees outside. Your body tries to keep itself that temperature. Why? If it doesn't maintain that temperature, you die. Homeostasis is a range of temperatures that you need to be in to stay alive. Your body fights to keep it there. Same thing is true of chemicals. You only need certain chemicals inside your cell, so if you put those chemicals into your body, your cells regulate and keep certain amounts of that chemical outside of your cell. Same idea. So homeostasis is essentially where the conditions your body needs to stay alive and how your body keeps it there.